Hello everyone, Frans here, game designer at Goals, and when we started building this game we were under the assumption that any proper football game had to be based on real life players. That's kind of what we're all used to from other football games, but then as development progressed a bit we kind of realized that using real life players come with certain limitations that go against the type of game that we want to build. So at that point we took a core decision that defines Goals, which is that every single player in the game is entirely unique. So what made us come to that conclusion? First is what we refer to as the meta problem, which is that in most football games a small number of players dominate the meta. So even though there is, thousands of players in the game, you actually only use like very few of those players, and already before a game you kind of know what the opponent's team is going to look like. This, in our opinion, reduces team variety, player variety, tactical creativity to some degree, and the game becomes very repetitive over time, whereas real football is actually the opposite. Different players bring different strengths and teams are built around what they have available, and you kind of adapt your tactics to the players you have at hand. Another downside we saw with using real-life players would be the integration in our progression system. And the progression system is basically the way for players to evolve over time and improve their rating and stats. And although you could, of course, use real-life players in such a system as well, it wouldn't make a lot of sense, because the whole point of real-life players is kind of that you have that connection to their real-life characteristics, whereas through a progression system, those characteristics can change entirely, because if you have a player that starts at, let's say, 40 rating and their end rating is something like 90, well, obviously their stats gonna be completely different to what they looked like from the beginning. And another downside we saw with real life players is that there's no real ownership of those players, because you share them basically with millions of other users that have the exact same players, whereas in Goals you have that pretty cool aspect of every single player that is in your club belong to you and you only. There's no other player alike, which makes your journey kind of personal in a way, which is pretty cool, and you basically write your own story. You're not sharing a template with all other users in the game. So that's why we settled on the solution of going with unique players, which means that every single player has unique stats, have unique visuals. No other user will have that exact same player as you. And it also means that there is a bit of depth to the game, because you can't just copy someone else's team or tactics. Instead, you have to understand your own players and build around their strengths and adapt your tactics. For example, if you have a tall striker who dominates in there, you can play direct or use crosses or long balls, where if you're lacking pace out wide but you're strong centrally, you use a narrow formation and control the midfield. There's no correct way of playing Goals, only what works for you and your squad and your play style basically. And we believe that the result is that every match feels different, every opponent brings something new to the table, and every squad tells their own story.